Hello again, whoever is listening, and welcome to another episode of The Critics. My name is Tony Gonzalez. Today's episode, we are talking about Jurassic World. This is the final video in the culmination of my Jurassic Park series. I've done one for 1, 2, and 3. Now we're doing the 4th one, and then in a couple months we'll be doing one for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which will be coming out soon. But for today, let's talk about 2015's Jurassic World. First and foremost, I am very surprised this movie got made, because when you really look at it, if you go back and look at the other 3 Jurassic Park movies, really only the first one is great. The second one was fine. The third one was an absolute disaster. So the fact that they came through and actually made this one is kind of a giant risk they took. And man, did it pay off. This movie is great. A lot of great things about this movie. So to start off, very first thing, the music. The music has taken me right back to the nostalgia of 1993. It felt just like the way that the music of that initial movie felt, and it was great. It was great to be back. I had so much fun listening to just the certain parts. Of course, being from 2015, the CGI has gotten significantly better than it was the years prior. But man, this CGI was just so good, and it really makes you actually appreciate the original works of the 1993 movie, because though that CGI holds up really good compared to even this. But they did such a good job on that, because I'll tell you what, that Indominus Rex, that thing was scary. The way that they made that dinosaur was just intimidating. They made it one thing after another. You didn't know for sure what was all put into this dinosaur, because they kept it so hush-hush. And then when you started to hear little things about what would be in it, it really started to be like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then to find out that it had raptor in it, oh my goodness, that was intense. And that just made the whole movie just go to level 11. And man, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Speaking of the Raptors in this were awesome. I talked a little bit in my last video about the Jurassic Park 3, how the Raptors, especially with the CGI, looked really fake and really cartoonish and just didn't look right. This made up for it. These Raptors looked amazing. Everything about them, to the smallest detail, was just so intricate and just so awesome. I really enjoyed it. Now, Chris Pratt, just coming off of the hype of Guardians of the Galaxy, before that, relatively unknown unless you watch Parks and Recreation, and he was awesome. Again, solidifying that he is an action star. This movie, you saw a completely different side of him, and it was great. This was a more serious role for him, and it was just so good. He was so good in this role. Awesome. Bryce Dallas Howard. I will say, when I sat and watched this movie, me and my wife watched it, we both agreed. As compared to Julianne Moore and Tia Leone, she's not that bad. She's not quite as good as Laura Dern, but Bryce Dallas Howard does a really good job in this movie. She at least learns, and that I gotta give her major credit for. There were numerous times when she would do something stupid, and then Chris Pratt would look at her and say, don't do that, or shh. And she followed suit. She listened. So I have to give her a little bit of credit for that. She wasn't super annoying. There were moments when I kind of wanted to strangle her, but overall, she did not drive me that insane. Not as much as I actually thought she was going to. The 2 kids in this movie were both fine. I wouldn't say they were great, but they weren't horrible either. In fact, I felt them almost a little unnecessary. I mean, they moved the plot along a little bit. At the same time, they didn't have to be there, and a lot of the same things would have transgressed in a lot of the same way. So they were fine. I really didn't like the backstory they did with those kids, like starting the movie mainly off with them and their parents, and then the talk of the divorce, and it just kind of was like, in my mind, forced in to have them to be able to have something to talk about when there's downtime, and I didn't need that. They realistically weren't the focus of why I went and saw that movie, and it's not that they necessarily detracted from the movie, but they didn't add anything either. The only real thing that those kids did add was a reason why the British secretary died. And I have to say, her death seems kind of awesome. Just the way it works. Not that she died, that's not good. But just how everything was. It was so in-depth. It was so intricate to how everything happened to her. It was kind of awesome. It really was. And I hate to say that, but it's true. Speaking of death, there are more deaths in this movie than I'm pretty sure all three of the other movies combined, especially when you add in an actual full-on park and all these extra people. There were a lot of people that ended up dying from this movie. A lot. I actually couldn't get over it the second time I watched it. I kind of forgot. After watching all these movies back to back, there was a lot. Speaking of dinosaurs, obviously, every scene with a dinosaur in this movie was perfect, in my personal opinion. In the other movies, let's say for the very first one, there were scenes that included dinosaurs that just didn't feel right. This movie didn't have that in any capacity. Every time that they showed a dinosaur, it was great. From the Mosasaurus, which is the water dinosaur, coming up and eating the shark, or the other times that it popped up in this movie, down to the Brachiosauruses who were laying there dead to show that the Indominus Rex was just killing to kill. It was great. Every scene that included a dinosaur was just absolutely great. It just brought back, again, the nostalgia of that 1993, and it was just wonderful. Man, that final battle scene between the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex, and also there's a raptor in there, and also there's a Mosasaurus in there. So many dinosaurs in this final scene to kill this one dinosaur because it wants to kill everything. That was just so crazy to me. It was intense. We sat there on the edge of our seat just glued down because it was so intense. I've seen this movie numerous times and it was still so intense watching it. Absolutely great. Now, like every other movie, there are flaws with this movie. I made a list of the things that are wrong with this movie. There's not many, but there are some that are dumb. Let me tell you about them. First off, I already told you I did not really care for the family's backstory. I felt it was unnecessary, I felt it was forced, and it was a waste of time. How are people bored with dinosaurs already? I know that it's been like 10 years, but it's dinosaurs, something that this world hasn't had for thousands, millions of years, and yet people are like bored with dinosaurs. I never understood how they got that far. How is it that these kids are able to fix this car within like 20 minutes when it's been sitting for like 20 years? I understand that they took a couple things off of the broken car that they found, but still, you have like a 15-year-old and like a 10-year-old, and they're able to fix this car in a very short amount of time, get it running for them to leave. I don't buy that at all. Sorry. That's a little too convenient, even for my taste. Why is there no escape plan? You would think that on an island that has dinosaurs who on 3 separate occasions have been known to eat people, that they would, if they're going to open a park, have an escape plan that would go into effect immediately, not have to wait for morning for fairies to come. That to me is really dumb. And you're also telling me that there is no other pilot that could fly a helicopter, that you need the billionaire to have to fly this helicopter and he ends up dying for nothing? Again, kinda dumb. Overall, still a really good movie. I would give this movie a solid A-. This movie is great. Way better than the other two. Not necessarily as good as the original Jurassic Park, but still a very, very, very well-crafted movie. I am super excited for the new one to be coming out. I'm hoping it's a little bit different than the same old formula that all the other movies have been following thus far. But if it's as entertaining as this movie was, I'd probably be okay with it either way. But we'll talk about it when it comes out, so stay tuned. Until then, you guys have a great one.